A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to Monday's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabela, your host. Let's look at some of the headlines in tomorrow's Namibian Sun. Supreme Court orders Home Affairs to relook the Delgado application. That is the case of the Mexican man who's married to a Namibian man who is struggling to secure his status in the country and took government to court over that matter. COVID-19 lockdowns and patrols have depleted police coffers, according to Albert Kawana, the Minister of Home Affairs, as a matter of fact, saying that their coffers were left dry by those extra expenses, and $500 million extra money can be made in the northern communal areas if proper cattle offtake is embarked upon. That is north of the red line. Tonight on the show, we are joined by two students in Ukraine who had to flee that country because of the current conflict happening in that country, and they are just here to share with us and with you, as a matter of fact, their experience in that horrible and scary situation. I'm joined by Albertina Ndaningina. Albertina Ndaningina. She's a final year student in Ukraine, as well as Jesaya Hikufe, who is in his second last year also. That is his 5th year and is set to finish next year. Thank you first and foremost, Jesaya and Albertina, for the courage to be here tonight on the show, because you landed in the country yesterday. I can imagine the experience, the trauma and everything, but the fact that you pulled yourself together to be on the show tonight means a lot to us. Tell me what you are studying, at what university, and in which city?
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Albertina Ndaningina. I was in my final year at Zaporizhzhia State Medical University. It is a city in the southeast of Ukraine, between Kharkov and Dnipro. And most people know it because we're very close to the Lugansk area, where all of the conflict initially started.
Jesaya, what are you studying and where?
So good evening, everybody. My name is Hikufe Jesaya. I'm a 5th year medical student. I'm studying at National Pirogov Memorial Medical University Vinica, which is roughly 205 kilometers away from the capital city Kiev, where the first attack happened. So I'm studying general medicine.
Okay, wonderful. So before we proceed, I just want to play an audio. I hope my viewers will be able to hear it, because on the 16th of February, when we were hearing just about rumors first that this conflict coming into Ukraine, there was no attack yet, and Russia was denying everything. And then I spoke to a number of students in Ukraine. This student, whose name I will not reveal, is in the Lugansk region, and I spoke to her to say, what is the situation on the ground? What are you seeing, you know? This is what she had to say. I hope I'll just bring it close to my...
Regarding the situation on ground at the moment, it is quite stable at the moment. I don't feel, or we don't feel unsafe. We don't feel threatened. There isn't any increased military presence on ground. Things are pretty normal. People are still going to shops. People are still in restaurants. But at the moment, we are having online classes. But this is not because of the tension between Russia and Ukraine. This is due to COVID-19.
That was on the 16th of February.
Yeah.
It sounded, and imagine Lugansk, I imagine is bordering Russia.
Yeah.
And nothing of the sort was happening. Then we are here. In your case, what happened?
In Zaporozhye, initially during that period, we were also online due to the COVID-19 situation, but not because of any tension between Russia and Ukraine. So we were told that we shouldn't be afraid and, we're safe, but nobody made it seem that there was danger of any form. So initially everything was fine, everything was stable, everybody was going about their normal daily lives. Even when we heard that the attack started in Kyiv, when I looked outside my window, everybody in my city was living their normal life, walking their dogs, taking their children to school. So we didn't think there was any reason for us to fear. Yeah.
And in your case, Jesaya, what did you see?
So in my case in Vinica, so most people know that Vinica is one of the safest cities in Ukraine. That's why most of the people that were studying in Lugansk and the region of Donetsk in 2014 were evacuated and came to study in Vinica. They were transferred there. So in our case, it was pretty normal. Like the situation was stable. There was no kind of tension or attacks towards Vinica, because Vinica is located in the center of Ukraine. And everything was just going on normal. We were attending online classes also due to the increasing number of COVID-19. So yeah, everything was just normal in Vinica.
And then, so if everything was normal, again, let me come back to Albertina. If everything was normal up until that stage, why are you here today?
So
What transpired?
I think it was last week, Friday. So initially on Thursday afternoon, we heard the sirens for the very first time in our city. So they told us that by the time we entered all the bomb shelters, that it was just an emergency drill. They were just preparing us that everybody, especially all the students, knew where the bomb shelters were located. So we entered the bomb shelter, we were there for about 30 minutes, and then we all left. So then again on Friday evening, we heard the sirens run about at midnight, and then everybody left their apartments, their hostels, to run to the nearest bomb shelter. I think at that point when my friends...
What is a bomb shelter first?
It's almost like an underground shelter. Like it was built, I think because of what happened in 2014, they made all of these spaces available in case of any emergency situation and you couldn't flee the city or the country, you would just stay there for protection of any form. So we ran and left our houses in the middle of the night, and we were in the bomb shelter in the school for about an hour or two. That is when we all realized that we can't keep living like this. We have to go and we have to leave.
In your city, what happened then from that stability, that stable condition that you spoke about, to what you witnessed later?
So even though everything was going normal in our situation, it wasn't as normal like 100%. It was like sort of a 50-50 situation. We all knew that the attack wasn't only meant to be for Kyiv. Initially, we knew that this was going to erupt into a whole Ukrainian war. Like all cities are going to be affected in one way. So when the first attack happened in Kyiv, it was circulating all over social media between students, teachers. Some students were running in the hostel. They were like waking us. Like my friend from South Africa actually came to our floor, and then he was knocking hard, and then we were like, guys, the thing started. And then that's now when we were like trying to seek for shelters and things like that, and also not stay close to windows. So, and then that's also when we started making plans like, guys, we need to put our important documents together just in case we have to evacuate from this area, because from that moment we saw that Ukrainians from our hostel, from the nearby houses, they were taking their bags, getting into their cars, and I think they were driving out of Vinica and out of Ukraine. So that's what also transpired us to also follow.
In your case, Albertina, then from the bunker, as I would call it, you called it bomb shelter.
Yeah, but it's a bunker, yeah.
You were, a number of you, the different nationalities, the locals and foreigners like yourselves. You were there for almost an hour, and then what happened after that?
So when we were in the bunker for about an hour, they told us that everything is in the fun. And there was actually a situation when we were in the bunker. There was a Moroccan guy that was a student of our school. He came in and he told that everybody in the shelter should put their phones on airplane mode because there were some theories going around that the Russians are tracking us or so. So everybody had to switch off their phones or put it on airplane mode. So after that, that's when they told us that, okay, 5 minutes after that, it was safe for us to leave. So we all left the bunker, and even though those of us that were not accommodated in the school hostel, we slept overnight in the school hostel because we wanted to be as close to the bunker as possible in case we had to go in again. So then when we woke up in the morning, that's when we decided that we should actually just get on the first evacuation train and leave the city.
I see. I suppose in your case, Jesaya, also you then had to leave, like you said, that you started making plans to leave.
Yeah.
How did you leave Vinica?
So for us, so since the first attack was on a Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So on that Thursday, so bomb shelters were actually, the bunkers were now provided. Some hostels had underground shelters, and also the university, it was just like some few feet away from our hostels. So some students went to seek shelter there. So, but then we had like a common group, where a WhatsApp group where we were like communicating, like we need to come up with a plan, like and book a bus, like, because that was the only means of transportation since the airlines were closed. The airspace was closed down. So we were communicating on that group. So we managed to seek the transport, but then we also encountered difficulties like withdrawing money, because on that Friday we left on the Friday. On the next day, on that Friday, some students didn't actually buy bus tickets. So when we were going around the ATMs, there was actually no money. So it was very difficult. It's either you had to have money on your Ukrainian card, because if you had money on your Namibian card, it was of no use because you can't withdraw it. There was no money. So we gathered as a group. We booked a bus for roughly around 20 students from Vinica, and then we left as one towards Poland.
That's exclusively Namibian students, or is it
Namibian students? Yes.
Okay. In your case, when you guys left, when you boarded, you said a train?
Yeah, the evacuation train, yes.
Yeah. So you headed where, and what happened afterwards?
So there was a train that was leaving at 8 a.m. and it was filled with all different kinds of nationalities, and we missed that one. So we couldn't get on that one. So then we gathered as many people as we could and the train was leaving at 2 p.m. That was the last one leaving our city for that day. So if we didn't get on that one, we'll probably have to wait 2 or 3 more days. So when we got onto the train, we were heading for Lviv because we were told that Lviv is the closest city to Poland, where the Namibian embassy was helping most of the students. So we knew that our best option of getting home or getting to any form of safety was to get to the Polish border. So we got on a train heading to Lviv, and then that was about 23 hours from our city. So we were on the train for 23 hours. We got to Lviv, and then I think that's where most of the chaos actually started for us.
Yeah. Well, what kind of chaos are you talking about? I mean, we've heard a lot of stories about foreigners, especially of this skin complexion being put at the back of the queues and stuff like that. Is that something that you've observed, or you just what chaos are you talking about yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually, unfortunately, I was one of the people to have a first-hand experience of that kind of racism and discrimination in Ukraine. Because the funny thing is, we felt that because we are foreigners, we would be of some kind of importance to the Ukrainian people, and they would want to evacuate us, right? So they told us that these trains that are leaving for Poland. So bear in mind, we were standing in the cold for 5 hours, and the snow was falling. And we were told that there was a train that was supposed to come, and it was supposed to take us to Poland. But then when the Ukrainian police officers arrived, they pushed all the black people to the back of the line. They told us that we can't enter this train. This train is exclusively for their people, that they're only taking Ukrainian women and children. So, and they were even like, they can't even take any of the boys. So when the Namibian boys were like, can you take the Namibian or the African girls at least? They said no, that this training is exclusive for their people. And one of the Ukrainian officers looked me in the face and he said that I should call my people and my embassy to come and take me from Lviv, that this is only for their people.
I see.
Yeah.
That must have been very, very traumatic. In your case, Jesaya, when you left your town, how was the experience from your city to the border with Poland?
Actually, my group that left Vinica were one of the most lucky and fortunate group because our road, we didn't really encounter many difficulties.
Yeah.
For us, we used the border of Dorohust. It's called Dorohust, the Ukrainian-Polish border.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the safest borders to enter, Poland. So we didn't really encounter much. But then I cannot only speak on my behalf. There are certain students that use different borders. So for some of those students, they did encounter difficulties, such as some of them were actually even dropped off, like maybe, let me say, even 30, 50 kilometers away from the border, because some bus drivers were not willing to go until that border. We don't know for what reason. And some of them, they had to carry their suitcases 50 kilometers walking towards the border overnight. And yeah, it was really difficult, and it was cold. Some didn't have like warm clothes and things like that, but we thank God they made it through.
Indeed. Yeah. We go for a quick break and then return to talk about the fate of these two students as to what then happens regarding their future. We continue our conversation with Albertina and Jesaya. Now, in your case, Albertina, you have one of the saddest stories because of the fact that you were going to complete your degree in May this year. The final exams were scheduled for May this year. So, what is the plan now? What's going to happen after spending 6 years in Ukraine?
I think my biggest hope is that the situation in Ukraine does to some point alleviate, and then we are given the opportunity to go back at least and write our exam and get our degree and then leave. But worst case scenario, if that doesn't happen, we are honestly hoping that the Namibian government and the Ministry of Higher Education can integrate us into the system somehow, that we are given the opportunity to at least, if not write our exam, but maybe they can form some form of bridging course to accommodate us, because there is a very big disparity between the Ukrainian form of education and the Namibian form of education, which we understand. So it might be difficult for us to be integrated right away, but I feel like there is something that they can do if we don't have the possibility of going back to Ukraine.
Your dream, Jesaya, is hanging by the thread, by a very thin thread. What do you hope would be the resolution to your situation as a student that only has essentially 2 years to finish your studies?
Okay, so firstly, I entrust and we entrust our universities as to how they're going to deal with this situation, because we have been in contact with our university dean officers. So firstly, I would just like to urge all students not to make decisions so fast and quickly, like them trying to transfer to certain universities, because all our academic records are still held by that specific university where you are attending. So next week, this coming week actually, after the 13th, our university is going to come back to us regarding whether we're going to go back online, provided the matter maybe just settles down a bit, because that's what they've been communicating with us. But then we're also hoping that if things don't go as planned, obviously we are just looking to the government now, maybe to accommodate us, because there are talks that are going to start this week between the government officials regarding students that just came from Ukraine, regarding our studies, just to see if they can come up with a solution regarding our future plans for our studies.
Indeed. Jesaya is speaking about government. How much role did government play in you being here today? From the date that these things started happening in Ukraine to not knowing what to do with yourselves to being here today, what is the specific role that government has played, or were you left to do this all on your own?
No, I must honestly commend the Namibian government for all the efforts that they made, because they played a very major role in getting me here today, because they're the ones that facilitated the transportation from the Polish border to the capital city. They provided for our accommodation, as well as the repatriation flights that we all took from Poland to Namibia was all facilitated by the Namibian government. So on that end, I really want to thank them so much for all the efforts that they did play.
Yeah. Tell me about Poland. You guys crossed into Poland. You met Namibian officials at the borders. How did you end up where you ended up in Poland?
So for my group, when we crossed Poland, there was no Namibian official that was waiting for us on that other side. But then when we crossed, we were just having the communication that with our representatives in Germany at the embassy, that when you reach, in case they want to ask you this and this at the border, show them these documents, because there were already documents in place that were provided for us to have an easy way to go through the border. So there was nothing that held us back from, there was no questioning and things like that. They understood. So when we went into Poland, they also communicated with us that go to this certain accommodation. It is already booked for you guys. Just show them this and this. So yeah, that's it.
Well, what kind of accommodation was that? Is it hotels, is it backpackers, or what was it?
Yes, it was hotels, some were hostels. Yeah, the government was just trying to accommodate everyone, so yeah, that's what they did for us.
And food, how did you survive for those few days that you were there?
Yeah, when we were in Poland, they did provide us with food. They provided us with food that we could cook for ourselves, and they also provided us with cooked food already for like lunch and dinner, especially in our hostel, because we were actually in different accommodations. So for those of us that were in my hostel, they did provide us with everything we needed to make breakfast, and then they provided us with lunch and dinner as well.
And you were in constant contact with your families back here?
Yes, all the time, except for when I was actually still stuck in Ukraine. There'd be sometimes you have to switch off your phone to save your battery. So that was a lot of uncertainty, because a lot of our parents didn't know whether we were alive or not. So there was just some rumors and flyers. They'd be looking for us, but not knowing that we were actually safe and sound. It was just because we were trying to save our batteries. But then when we got to Poland, every single day, especially my mom would call me maybe 4 or 5 times a day, just to make sure I'm still okay.
Okay. I'm asking this because the student that I was playing, whose voice note I was playing here, I've lost contact with her completely. As a matter of fact, I think it's very important just to, that this exchange was on the 16th of February before the invasion took place. And then on the 24th of February, by then the invasion has started. So I asked her, because I needed to because we did a story from our first conversation that appeared in the paper, and I thought we could do a follow-up story just to shed light on the plight of Namibian students. The students said, as I asked, what is the situation like at the moment in your city? We are reading too many scary reports in the media. She says, they are bombing, they are bomb shelling our city. She says, I can't talk right now. We are trying to leave. Then I asked her, are you leaving for another town in Ukraine, or you are returning to Namibia? She says, another country. She was another country, transport is down, and. So since then, I've been trying to say, are you safe? Where are you? Obviously, I hope she is safe, of course. But I think it makes sense now about batteries running dead and all these things. It makes sense why some of this communication could not take place. The final question to you, Jesaya, is from what you're hearing, are all Namibian students now back in the country? Are you getting any communication from some of them that are still in your cities, who remain behind? What are you hearing?
So as of now, as things stand, not all of them are back in the country. We still have around 4 or 5 students that are stuck in a city called Sumy. That is just 1 hour away from Russia. So as I've heard, is that our embassy representatives in the Russian embassy, they are trying to negotiate with the Russian embassy so they can try to cross over the students that are stuck in Sumy through the Russian border. Because in that city, so much is going on right now. The roads are destroyed, the railways are destroyed. So the means of transport is either you have a private personal car, you can take another road, but yeah, they are still stuck there. Not only them, but other nationalities as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're just urging the government to, to work very hard and try to get them out of there.
Sure.
Because they are our main priority, our main concern. For us, we are safe now, but we are still working on them also to gain their safety back home.
Yeah, indeed. The final question to you, Albertina, is so I suppose the conflict, the fighting and the shelling is still maybe from Kiev. I can't remember the map very well of Ukraine, but I suppose it's from Kiev eastwards, towards all those regions, Lugansk and Donetsk, anything that borders Russia, and maybe your city hasn't had the actual fighting, we do not know. But do you know of anyone, whether, we are told obviously that the Namibian students are safe, but do you know of anyone that got injured or killed, somebody that you knew maybe, or likely none of that has happened?
No, nobody I know personally has been harmed or anything in the war, but we did hear of an Indian student that passed away unfortunately in Kharkov due to the conflict and everything. But other than that, no, we haven't heard. Nobody else that I know personally has gained any physical harm due to the conflict.
Okay. No, thank you both of you for coming. Again, for really having the courage amidst all this trauma that you have gone through to come and face that camera there. So thank you very much for...
Can I add something?
Yes, quickly, yes, please.
I also like to add something, but then this is not about Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's actually about Russia.
Yes.
So we have Namibian students that are studying in Russia. As of now, things are very uncertain. This thing can soon appear to be a European war. So I do have friends that are studying there in Russia that we schooled together from high school. And what they are telling me is that they did get permission from their universities that they should leave Russia and go home. They also assured a permission guarantee that they will also continue attending classes online, regardless of what happened. So we urge also the Namibian government just to try to assist those government to evacuate right now while it's still early.
Yeah. No, it's a good point actually, because I know that like this audio clip, everything sounded so certain, everything sounded assured, only for this to happen. We do not know whether there will be retaliation from the Western countries, for example, and attack Russia, and then our students will be stuck there. So I think the earlier the better.
Yes, because right now those students are facing difficulties such as you can't send money to them right now. We know that the sanctions are hitting Russia right now.
Yes.
They can't withdraw money. So the only means that they can get out of there is through the government officials. So,
indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. No, thank you very much, both of you. Yeah. Larissa, Albertina, and Jesaya, freshly out of Ukraine. They arrived in the country just yesterday on Sunday, and they shared their very sad and horrifying story. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.